Hey there, it's in the spotlight with Kelly Sienkowski and another edition of Roots of the Region, where we sit down with the people behind the farm, vineyard, and the agricultural traditions that have helped shape Virginia. So today we're shining the light on Willow Oak Farm and Vineyard, which is in Spotsylvania County. And if you follow Potomac local news, you may remember that we revealed the news that they are opening a new vineyard in 2024. So today, talking to me is Kenny Smith, one of the owners of Willow Oak Farm and Vineyard. Kenny, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
No problem, Kelly.
So, Kenny, first, let's talk about the farm. Tell me a little bit about the background of the farm.
So, Willow Oak Farm and Vineyard was actually owned by the Green family, and the farm was incorporated in Spotsylvania as far back as 1809, we can tell. And it was owned by the Greens until about 2010 when my parents bought it, mainly as a retirement idea. And then it kind of became more of an actual working farm in Spotsylvania.
Gotcha. And so, what kind of products do you guys sell in your farm? Obviously, you have grapes. We know that.
So yeah, we do grapes. We're also a commercial hay provider. We do grass hay and some legume hay. We bale about 600 acres a year. Before that, we were doing large scale grain farming, planting about 300 to 400 acres a year, plus the hay operation. And it just got to a point where we had to change our business as the winery grew and it needed more attention. So we scaled back from doing grain farming and just doing hay production and wine production.
Gotcha. And when did you start getting involved in the farm?
I started managing day-to-day operations of the farm about 12 years ago.
Is there a point when you suddenly realized that it clicked and you knew you wanted to do this?
Oh no, I mean, it was like, well, we'll see. And then it finally got to a point where I was like, all right, well, my background's in music. I got to a point where I'm like, well,
Hmm.
I'm actually doing better. It was actually during COVID 2020 when I had my best year farming possible. Made really good money that year, and I was sitting around and I was talking to all my colleagues who were in the music world still, and they were unemployed, and I was just like,
Hmm.
you know what? I made a good decision going farming.
There you go. Good. So I mean, with your family having bought the farm, there's been a lot of changes in agriculture over the years. How do you think that farming is evolving in Virginia, especially when it's a smaller family-run kind of operation?
Well, so most of the farms in this country are actually still family owned and operated. It's almost 90%. Um, I personally think you're seeing two fields. You're seeing guys that are farming thousands of acres, and you're seeing the small guy who's farming,
Hmm.
sub 500 acres. Or, maybe they're just farming, 30 acres of produce. But the director of economic development in Spotsylvania, Kevin Marshall, says it best. He says the 5,000 acre farmer has to get support from the 5 acre farmer. So you're seeing more of a centralized, almost like a cell of farmers working together, whether like, so me, for example, I sell to Schaefer's Dairy. I sell my hay to them. They do not produce their own hay, but they produce milk, for local families. And so you're seeing more of a localized return to agriculture. And I think you're going to start seeing smaller farmers
Hmm.
um, kind of making more headway than they used to um, due to COVID. People were like, wow, I can't find this. Well, they found it from a local guy, and then that local
Right.
guy is starting to get big. I also see in agriculture, the way we do things are changing. I used to own a giant spray rig and spray my own crops, but I mean, it's time consuming and it's a piece of equipment I don't need. So you're seeing a lot of contracted out work to reduce
Hmm.
your equipment costs. I use Dutcher Land Management, who's an ag drone service. in the region, and he does all my spraying, he does my overseeding, and that's just a piece of equipment I don't need. So I think you're seeing agriculture changing. Whether it used to be, oh, one guy's doing all the work on his farm, you're seeing it be more of a community effort.
That makes sense, especially like you said after COVID, when people were realizing the supply chain,
Yeah, the
you
supply
have more
chain was
control
not
over it.
good.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's focus on the grapes. So you guys had been growing grapes for quite some time before you opened the winery. What made you guys jump to, we're going to start bottling our own wine?
So we started growing grapes in 2018 with the idea that we were going to produce wine. Uh, the way we got into, that idea is literally one day my dad, who's very into Virginia wines, him and mom were driving around doing wine tastings, and they got talking to a winery owner over in Harrisonburg area, and
Mhm.
he was 12 acres and making wine out of his garage, and dad said it was some of the best he had. Conversation moved, well, maybe we should start moving into wine, especially in Spotsylvania, Stafford, the region we live in. Land is shrinking, so there's only one way to grow, and
Mhm.
that's growing up. So verticulture. So, growing, 4 tons to the acre up on trellising, um, you can grow more going up than you can on the ground. So that's kind of how we got into it. Just a little bit of like, hey, we're into wine as a family, let's start something. We got the land, and, it just kind of evolved from there.
Yeah, sounds like it just made sense. So
Yeah, a
what's
little bit
been
made sense.
what's been the most surprising part about moving into the winery side of things?
Um, I guess the surprising part, is with moving into it is sometimes you got your staples Chardonnay, um Cab Sav, Cab Franc, Merlot, Petit Menzang. You get your standalones, but then you can start blending wine, and the surprising part is sometimes you can make a blend that you think personally is going to be a failure. I made one called Current, and it is 87% Norden and 13% Cab Sav, but it's infused with blackberries. And personally, I'm like, I don't think this is going to work. And it has been very surprising how fast it's been selling. So that's where you get your surprise when you're making it and you're like, ah, this ain't going to work, and it's actually
Right.
been a commercial success. And then some of them you're surprised, they're like, oh, this is going to be great, and you don't sell it that well. So I think the surprise is where your consumer base, or where the people
Hmm.
tasting your wine actually are going, and you're like, yeah, this isn't going to work, and it actually, yeah, that worked out pretty good.
That's good. That's funny. So go ahead and tell me the types of wines that you offer. You started to name a few of them, but what are your current wines?
So we grow um 10, 12, 11 different varieties. We grow Norden Chalasse, which is a grape that's developed by Cornell in New York. We grow Chamberson and Cab Sav and a little bit of Merlot. Those are our 5 reds. And then our whites, we grow Golden Muscat, um, Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, what else? Traminette, Sauvignon Ritos, and those are our five. I think I'm missing. Oh, and Petit Menzang. Yeah, that's our 11 grapes. That's our
Yeah.
six whites and our 5 reds. And out of that, we are moving to making probably about 18 to 20 wines. So each of them have a standalone for the most part. And
That's going to be
then
an impressive lineup.
so you got, your 11 standalones, and then we have, depending on the year, we'll have about 8 to 10 blends. Um, and that's
That,
where we're moving towards. It looks like this year in the works for the 2026 growing season, we'll probably be coming out with a sangria, which will be something different than what we currently make. Um, right now we're at 10 different varieties. We'll have two more come out this year, and then probably by 2028, I think we'll have um by 2028 we'll have um probably 15 to 18 varieties out on the market.
Mhm. So, Kenny, a lot of wineries like to play around with the name that they choose for their wines. Do you guys have any particular
There's
inspiration for how you're naming your wine?
so all of our wines that have names tell a story. So our standalones are all named after the grapes. So whether it's Norton, Cab Sav, Traminette, um,
Right.
Moscato, they all have that's the name. All of our blends tell a story. So
Mhm.
current is spelled Currant, like the current of the ocean, and it's got a billfish on it. The reason that is the story is my three uncles that live on the farm, JW, Danny, and Richard, are all bill fishermen. They all captained sport fishing vessels. So as a nod to them, we got a
Hmm.
marlin on the bottle, and it tells the story. Um, our premier red is Samuel's Red, which is named after the original farm dog here at at Willow Oak, who was a basset hound who hung out in the vineyard every day. You know, the original owner of the farm that we bought it from, Miss Lillian Green, that's what our rosé is named after. So all of our wines that are our current
Hmm.
blends, they tell a story of who we are.
They all have a tie. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you guys are working on a tasting room. How is that going?
So the tasting room should be open by middle of June. It's taken a little longer. I mean, the snow that lingered for a month um, held it up.
Yeah.
And then some other permitting and stuff has held it up, but it's coming along. I think it'll be ready middle of June, and we'll be going there. It seats 48 people inside, and then with the deck, it'll seat another 24 people. So a lot of room.
Awesome. What kind of a vibe are you going for? Is it going to be sort of a country,
So
formal?
our all of our vibes is, farming. I mean, we are a working farm, so we have that, farm feel. It's actually the tasting room is a converted barn. It was a barn for years, and now we don't need that barn anymore, so we converted it into the tasting room. Production facility will follow in there as permitting and time allows. So yeah, everything it's centralized around the farming operation. That's why in the name we went
Hmm.
with farm first because, we always
Perfect.
want to make sure we're farming.
Good. And then, Kenny, I want to ask, could you kind of mention that month of snow that we had? We've already had a bit of a year so far in Virginia. We've had obviously the massive snow, ice, concrete
Yeah.
storm. We just had a massive rainfall this past weekend, but before that, we had a really late freeze this year. How does that kind of unpredictable weather impact, say, somebody like a vineyard?
So, I don't think the weather was super unpredictable, to be honest. Frost date in Virginia, the last day it can possibly freeze is May
Hmm.
12th. We had some unseasonably warm days in March and April, which forced the buds to break earlier. Um, and when they broke early, a lot of us were kind of expecting this. I feel like, yeah, we don't want to see the freeze. I mean, it wiped out most of my vineyards. They are bouncing back very well.
Wow.
Um, but it knocked him out good. But I kind of felt like it was kind of come happened in 2020. Um, but before that, I mean, when the grapes went into dormancy, they were stressed out already because of the lack of rain. We've been in a D2 drought and a D3 drought for since about September of last year. So I'm hopeful that with all the rain we just had, we're going to come out of the drought. But with the rain we just had, there's a lot of disease pressure with fungus and stuff that we'll need to mitigate for the rest of the year. But if we can keep hitting some good rains this summer, I'm hopeful for a good growing season.
Yeah. It's a tricky balance. We need more rain, definitely, to overcome all those droughts, but
Yeah,
also
so it's
disease
a
and fungus.
it's a like a hit or miss. I mean, we need more rain, but grapes actually do best when it's a little bit dry. So, it's a catch 22. So I can do really well if the hay if on, late cropped hay, if we're getting the right of rain, but it makes it harder to pick the grapes. So it's a catch
Mhm.
22.
So, Connie, I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot of challenges involved in running a farm and now a vineyard. What keeps you motivated to keep building up Willow Oak Farm?
Um, so it's all about the people you surround yourself with. So I chair Ag Forestal for Spotsylvania County, and I've surrounded myself with, people like Kevin Marshall, our Director of Economic Development, Jake Lane, who's the Livingston District Supervisor. And when they want to see you succeed, um, not only for your sake and putting food on your family's table, but for the community's sake, I mean, that's a big help in pushing you that extra mile because if you go back to the stories, my Norton bottle has the map of Spotsylvania on it. I put that map on there, as a tip of the hat to where I grew up and the people from this county. So knowing that a lot of, the people that are going to support you in the tasting room and the wine business are from
Mhm.
where you live, it gives you that extra push at the end of the day to make sure you keep on going.
That's awesome. So I want to let anyone who's listening know you can follow Willow Oak Farm and Vineyard on Facebook. They do announce their pop-up tasting where you can go visit the farm and try the wines that they have available. And stay tuned because when we find out when that grand opening date is for the tasting room, you better believe I'll be there.
Yes, you will.
Kenny, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. And
No
for those of you,
problem.
yeah, for those of you who are listening to In the Spotlight, this is another edition of Roots of the Region where we highlight the people, the history, and the hard work behind our local agricultural community. Make sure you follow Willow Oak Farm and Vineyard on Facebook and check out their wine. Take care. Have a great day. Where's the
We
stop?
good?